Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Hey guys, welcome again to Worldview Matters. We appreciate you sharing on social media and, of course, subscribing to all of our shows. You can get an email, and whenever we have something new and an update, we'll send that to you. We won't bombard your email inbox. So go to worldviewmatters.tv. We're going to jump right into it right now with John Haller. He's my guest today. Can't wait to talk about all kinds of important things that not a lot of people are really exposing. He's a lawyer, elder, teacher, known for his weekly prophecy updates. He was a trial lawyer for almost 40 years. He's a pastor and elder at Fellowship Bible Chapel in Columbus, Ohio, and his prophecy updates are available on the FBC YouTube channel. They cover prophecy, news, biblical issues, discernment, apologetics, and of course, worldview issues. And that's why we like to keep up to speed with Mr. John Haller. Of course, with all the research and all the things that he dives into, nobody can really keep up, but we're trying. So John, welcome to Worldview Matters.
Hey, it's great to be with you, David.
So let's jump right into this first topic. It is digital public infrastructure, DPI, like the digital ID. We're concerned about these things because we know there's a push to go cashless. We know the World Economic Forum and the globalists are pushing this. For people that are just getting up to speed on some of this, who's behind the scenes? Why are they pushing this? Like, what's behind this whole agenda?
Look, I sort of analyze things through the lens of Bible prophecy, and in Revelation chapter 13 and also in Daniel, it talks about a coming global system by which you're going to be required to buy or sell. And our mutual friend Patrick Wood says that when it's commonly referred to in Christian circles as the mark of the beast. And for a long time, as people have talked about Bible prophecy, we've sort of righteously speculated, about what that might be. And, at one time it was the credit card, it was barcodes, it was a digital tattoo, it was, any number of things people have presented. We know that the system is going to be put in place. And it's not like, and we know that it happens in the last half of this period of human history that we talk about in Bible prophecy. And right now, I think we can say without reservation that it's closer to being implemented than ever before. It's already, parts of it are being implemented. And so as our friend Patrick Wood, who's written a great book on technocracy and what's coming, he said that, look, when this mark of the beast system is going to be implemented by the Antichrist and the false prophet, you read about it in Revelation 13, they're not going to sit around and say, okay, what are we going to do? I mean, how do we put this in place? Huh. They're just going to flip the switch,
roll it out,
and it's going to be immediate. And we see a lot of the way this is going, and it's going to be tied into your banking, your bank accounts, your credit cards, that type of thing. Already right now, in China, for example, there's a fairly famous video of a guy who was going to a protest about the way they were restructuring some of the banks. China's having a lot of economic problems right now. That you don't hear a lot about that, but it's happening. And about a year ago, they were having these big protests in some cities because they were essentially saying, well, yeah, we know you have stuff in the bank, but you can't have it because the bank doesn't have enough cash to give you what you have in the bank. And this is potentially coming to the United States. So they were having protests. And this guy went to a protest in a city about 100 miles away. And they had also implemented what I refer to as the Charlie Vector 019er health pass was incorporated in the phone.
COVID. We should tell people what that is.
Oh, that's right. COVID. And so if you hadn't been vaccinated, your phone would show red. But if you've been vaccinated, it would show green, which meant you could move around. So he went to the place. He's getting off the train. He's walking up to the exit where he's going to have to wave his phone. And in that process, his phone turned red. And he couldn't exit the train station to go to the protest.
Huh.
This is going, and this is China, which, they have 1.4 billion people, and they've implemented this. And now they quickly came out and said, "Oh, well, this was a mistake," and some local guy got a little bit aggressive with how he wanted to implement these things. That's baloney. We already are seeing many conservative organizations deplatformed and debanked. Nigel Farage, who is a very vocal conservative in the UK, who led the Brexit, the UK leaving the European Union common market, his banks shut him down. One of the largest, oldest, most respected banks in England. They shut him down because they didn't like his views. And it came out, and the CEO ended up getting fired over it. But when they started unpacking it and asked people, "Hey, have you had problems with your banks because of your political views?" They had 1 million people say, "Yeah, I've had trouble."
Wow.
I was in Scotland in June. I went to a big grocery store, sort of like a Walmart type thing. And as I paid, it said, "We need to approve your credit card." And I'm reading that on the screen, and the guy's walking over to, I don't know, bless me or whatever, that my transaction was okay. My picture appeared on the screen of the checkout. So I checked out. I started walking out of the store, and I thought, "Oh, I forgot to pick up something." I came back in. I went to the same checkout kiosk, and there have been people that had used it in the meantime. As I'm walking to it, my picture pops up.
Oh my goodness!
On the screen.
Wow.
And I didn't need to get anybody to approve this transaction. So I think we need to understand that this is coming. And my personal opinion is that I've often referred to our current administration as the Biden administration, because it has the fingerprints of Barack Obama all over it. If you remember Lois Lerner, who was the head of the IRS, or one of the sections of the Internal Revenue Service, they made it almost impossible for conservative, I think there were 501c4s, conservative political action entities to get tax exempt approval. They just slow walked it. And by the way, what happened to her? Everybody knew what she did was wrong. She had no right to do that. It was essentially illegal. And what happened to her? Well, she retired with a full pension.
Yep.
Nothing ever happened to her.
No accountability.
But what's happening is this infrastructure is being put together to really control everything. And again, it fits into a Bible prophecy pattern, because we know that this is coming, and I think we're getting a better picture day by day of what it's actually going to look like when it's implemented. And I'll confess to you, it's kind of frightening. And believe me, as someone who has, a somewhat popular YouTube channel, and I speak at conferences, and they know where I am. They know almost everything about me. I mean, I went to my doctor recently, and I was talking about a certain condition. I knew what I had, and I described for the doctor the symptoms. But as I'm sitting in the exam room, she started writing stuff down in the chart, and my Facebook feed started appearing ads for treating the condition that we were talking about.
Oh my goodness! Of course.
So there's no privacy. So it's really much worse. But the big issue, I think, is the banking, because it's going to control what you want. And now what they're rolling into this is they're rolling into it carbon footprint, net zero, all of this nonsense that they're trying to do with the climate. So there was a great interview. I think you have a clip teed up of Mark Stein, and I'm not going to try her name because she's Dutch, and she's got a name with, it's sort of like places in Wisconsin, too many consonants and not enough vowels or something.
So let's get that clip, and we'll come back and we'll talk about it, because we're getting close to our break. So Jeff, go ahead and run that clip.
The digital identity is not just a passport that you will have on your iPhone in a digital form. It entails just about everything the government would like to know about you. And yesterday in the Dutch media, we saw a perfect example of what it could entail in the near future. We had the CEO of one of the largest Dutch banks say, why don't we start with a personal carbon credit?
Oh.
A carbon wallet, she called it, actually.
Yeah.
So right in line with the plans that the World Economic Forum people have for us. And she said it in a way that was particularly funny. She said, well, if everyone gets an individual personal carbon credit, why don't we make it so that rich people who, for example, want to go on holiday a little too often can buy a personal carbon credit from other people who, for example, can't afford buying plane tickets or eating meat too often. So we can that way swap it out.
Oh, so if Bill Gates or Leonardo DiCaprio's carbon footprint is getting a bit too big, then some peasant living in his hovel up country somewhere can sell his, and he can't afford to go to Saint-Tropez, but he'll be able to sell his carbon allowance to Leonardo DiCaprio so Leonardo can park his yacht in Saint-Tropez for a couple of extra days.
So, John Haller, aside from the hypocrisy that Mark Stein pointed out about the elites and how they act, what was this woman really talking about? And we need to take a break right after that.
So what there was another interview that they played that was on a Dutch radio program, and they translated it. And she was just saying is we want to tie your digital identity that everybody's going to get, and almost everybody has right now anyway, in one form or another. We want to tie that to your carbon usage, so that if you're eating too many steaks and that sort of thing, you won't be able to. You'll go to the store and you'll scan the steak, and it won't let the money come out of your account. You'll have to put it
cut
back.
off. You're cut off from steak.
Well, and they have this concept, these C40 cities, where they're talking about certain things, and like their goal for 2030 is zero meat in these cities.
Wow.
Zero cars that drive around. And there's this concept of 15-minute cities and smart cities. And they're putting cameras up all over. In the UK right now, there's a big controversy. They're putting up cameras everywhere in the central part of London to monitor everything that goes on. And people are going around and vandalizing the cameras because they're like, we don't want Big Brother.
That's right.
But this is Big Brother writ large, and it does play into Bible prophecy quite a bit.
Yes, it does. Also reminds me of the show Jim Caviezel starred in, Person of Interest, if you guys remember that one several years ago. We'll be right back with more with John Haller on Worldview Matters.
Today's show is brought to you by Harbinger's Daily, world news biblically understood. Stay informed at harbingersdaily.com.
John Haller, we're going to have to talk about 15-minute cities briefly because a lot of people, I believe, in our audience don't know what the heck the globalists are planning and the environmentalists with these 15-minute cities. But Bill Gates, I have a quote from him. There was the G20 India Leaders Declaration. It's still going on, maybe just went on. I don't know. But he said this. He sent this out in a tweet. The G20 reached a groundbreaking consensus on the role of digital public infrastructure as a critical accelerator of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. He says, I'm optimistic about the potential of DPI to support a safer, healthier, and more just world. Kudos to PM. So what is he saying there? And is he signaling giving more marching orders to the globalist minions?
Sure. G20 is big, the top 20 economic countries in the world. They have meetings and everything. And by the way, in Indonesia earlier this year, these things happen so quickly. And so something that happened like 6 months ago seems like it was 5 years ago. But they had a meeting, and the health minister from Indonesia, at one of the side meetings that they had, he said, listen, if we have another pandemic, we're going to put in place a health passport, and you're going to need to have this health passport to move around. And you're going to have to get what we mandate as treatments. So your health passport will let you have freedom to move around. The implication, what he didn't say was, if you don't have that, you won't be able to move around. So they do that on the health side. And you see all sorts of things, David, that are coming out because it's a matter of health. This is exactly what the governor in New Mexico did just the other day when she banned in a number of counties of New Mexico any type of carrying of personal weapons, whether you had a concealed carry firearm license or not. She totally violated the second agreement. Now, I praise the Lord for brave sheriffs who've come out and said, that's unconstitutional. My oath is to support the Constitution, not some lunatic governor, and I'm not going to enforce this. But what was the basis of her violating the constitutional rights? It was a public health issue. This is what's going to happen with the next pandemic. We're allowed to shut down free speech because it's a public health issue. And that's exactly what our government did. There's a case in the Fifth Circuit. It was filed down in Louisiana. A judge issued an injunction against a huge number of federal agencies saying, you're not allowed to work with the tech companies to take down people and take down their posts and violate their free speech. Now, it was the injunction at the Fifth Circuit was modified. I think it was a 3-judge panel came out with a 75-page opinion that you ought to look up and read. And they said the government cannot do this. And so who did they bar? White House, the White House press secretary, the CDC, FBI, and still a number of agencies that you're not allowed to meet with these tech companies to suppress people's free speech. And the government all along said, well, we're not making any decisions. It's the tech companies. The tech companies get to make the decision. But that's not what happened, because they're saying we're going to take away certain legal benefits that you have, or we're going to come down on you on antitrust violations if you don't do what we're telling you. And they had meetings. And what happened during the course of them, read the opinion. The opinion said it got worse and worse and worse the more the government got involved. This is a clear violation of the First Amendment.
Yep.
And it was done in that case because of a public health emergency. So what rights are they going to take away under the guise of a public health emergency? And what's going to happen, David, with the 15-minute cities, with the carbon footprints, with the carbon social credit and all these other things, it's going to be like, we have to save the planet. It is a international public health emergency that we implement all of these controls. So the 15-minute city is, for lack of a better description, is they want you to do everything that you have within 15 minutes of where you live. This is Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He's building this massive city in the desert along the Red Sea. And it's supposed to be 100 miles long, 1,500 feet tall on either side. I don't know how many 100 yards across. And the goal there is you'll be able to go from one end of the city to the other in 20 minutes. But you won't need to, because everything will be within a 5 or 10 minute walk of where you live in this apartment. And everything will be controlled. There will be cameras and everything like you wouldn't believe. Like I said, when I was in Scotland, I was shocked. I mean, everywhere I drove on the motorways, or whatever they call them over there, the freeways, they were measuring my speed, and I mean, there were cameras everywhere.
Yep.
I know I saw, I'm going to guess, over 1,500 cameras in a 50-mile stretch.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
it's just, so this is how this thing in Bible prophecy that I talk a lot about comes together. It happens gradually, then suddenly. So they've been working on this for a long time. The technocrats have been working to put in place this technocratic thing. Now, they say it's just an economic system. And by the way, one of the big technocrats in Canada who fled Canada when they banned technocracy back in the 30s was a guy named Handelman, and he went to South Africa. You might know his grandson. who's maybe the biggest technocrat on the planet, a guy named Elon Musk.
Wow.
So they've been at this since the 1930s. But there's a guy named Yuval Harari who's sort of the philosophical side of the World Economic Forum and the technocrats and that type of thing. And I have this clip I play all the time of him. He went to Google headquarters in Silicon Valley in 2015. Mm-hmm. He said, I love coming to Silicon Valley, not just because I get to see some of my friends, but because this is where the religions that will control humanity in the 21st century are being created. Now think about that. I mean, they're not even hiding it.
Yeah.
And so it's coming on all these different levels, and it's coming very, very quickly.
The religions that are going to control humanity are being created in Silicon Valley. John, I know we had some other things we were going to talk about, but
I know we have just a couple minutes. Can I just bring up one thing?
About Harari? Go ahead.
No, well, it's related to the control, and it really relates to Google. So look, we try to maintain our stuff on YouTube, and it's a constant battle. And what they're doing is they're training us to self-censor. Mm-hmm. We just won't talk about certain topics because we're afraid our videos will get taken down. Or our channel, where we might have, I think we have around 60,000 subscribers on our channel now for Fellowship Bible Chapel, it'll just get taken down. But in the last election, a guy named Dr. Robert Epstein, and he's a liberal. I would call him a classic liberal. He would never vote Republican, never vote Trump. But by skewing the search results, he said that Google was able to swing in the 2016 and 2020 elections nationwide somewhere around 4 to 8 million votes. Now, he's been testifying in the Arizona House and some hearings they've had on election integrity.
Yep.
And he said if Google had not been able to skew search results that you get when you go there and type in a search, that Carrie Lake would have won. She lost by 0.6%. She would have won by 4%.
In Arizona,
And so what are we doing to stop this in the 2024 election? Is anything being done to stop it?
Not that I know.
The tech companies have been colluding with the government.
Yep.
We have a Fifth Circuit opinion that says they were. The government can't do this. And now in Europe, I think related to what that clip that you played earlier on the Mark Stein show in the UK, is that they've put in this thing called the Digital Services Act, where these companies are going to have to comply with taking down content that the government doesn't like, that the government considers disinformation or misinformation, or the worst thing in the world now, malinformation, that you intentionally are misleading people. And free speech is out the window. What'll happen, though, is that the tech companies, the most restrictive rules in the world are coming out of the European Union. So they're going to go with that, and they're going to knock all of our posts and stuff on social media down based on the European rules. So all they had to do is they had to get one big block of countries to adopt what they wanted, and now they can get away with it. And our government is going, the current regime that we have is going right along with it. I will confess to you that I find it to be rather frightening. And I say to my wife a lot, I'm glad I'm an old guy. Because I don't know. I mean, I have these beautiful little grandnieces, great nieces and great nephews, and they're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. What's the world going to be like when they're 30 if the Lord hasn't returned? It's a pretty frightening prospect, I think. But look, God's in control, and we knew this was going to happen. And there are some things going on in the background I really can't talk about. So just pray that people will be able to develop some ways to get around this. And I think there's efforts being made in that area.
There are. We need to be discerning. I think we really missed, even before the big tech social media conglomerate expanded to the tech giants that they are today, we knew that there was a Marxist infiltration in the school system, academia, government, corporations, the major institutions in America. And that was part of the plan. It goes back over 100 years here in America. But now with social media, here's the problem. We know that Google and they're skewing search results. And we know Facebook and they were censoring Christians, conservatives, people that would support or speak about the biblical worldview. We know that. The problem is there's not enough people raising awareness about it and doing something about it, especially our representatives, because you've got to attack it from the political arena. You've got to have laws changing. You talk about lawfare. Well, man, it just seems like it's such a big hill to fight on. But John, the battle continues. Just your closing thoughts. I know we didn't get to a couple of the other topics and articles, but this idea of control and the global elites that want to control us and want to change our lives. They've already changed since COVID, but they want to take it up a notch. We are concerned, but what can people do?
Well, if you want to drill down on this, inform yourself, find people that are talking about this. I think it's an issue that the church should be talking about, because what are we going to do? What are we going to do as a church, as a body of believers, as the body of Christ on the earth, when we have 4 families in our church that can't go buy food at the grocery store because the government doesn't like what they stand for? I mean, we're seeing lawfare everywhere, David. They're coming after everybody. They're trying to intimidate people, and they're coming at SWAT teams for people with SWAT teams to arrest people who prayed outside an abortion clinic. There were 6 just convicted in Philadelphia. Their lives are over. They're facing 11 years in prison. Their crime, praying outside an abortion clinic. They weren't blocking access.
Yep.
Okay. And it's all of this stuff really to sound the alarm. This is American Republic ending stuff. All of this. This will end the Republic if it's not stopped. And I'm concerned about it. Now, I think it's also part of the end times thing because it's happening everywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's not just America. You're right.
Right.
It's part of the global plan. And, I just want to encourage people. I know you do the same. We are here because God wants us here for such a time as this. We are born at the exact time that we are supposed to be on this planet. He gives everyone a voice, gifts and talents and different abilities to use. We need to be about the kingdom of God and the biblical worldview and supporting those who are out there on the front lines battling, because there are a lot of good people out there fighting, but they're being censored, shadow banned, they're being punished. As you said, some of them are being arrested just for the simplest things, just trying to abide by the First Amendment, free speech, religious freedom. John, we're going to have to continue this conversation, but I want to encourage people to go to Fellowship Bible Chapel on YouTube. Before anything happens, hopefully it won't, but watch John Haller's prophecy updates. A lot of amazing information and research that he puts out there. So, John Haller,
thank you, David. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you for your time today. Wow, guys. Yeah, thanks, John. To be continued, as always, with him. He does so much work in these areas. And we will try to keep you up to speed on as much as we can with the limited time we have. But guys, continue to share this on whatever platform you're on, audio, video, and social media. But I wanted to mention next week, we've got some guests lined up. I just want to tell you real quick. Julaine Appling, Wisconsin Family Council, Chad Davidson of Good Fight Ministries. And we've also got Dan Fisher bringing back the Black Robe Regiment. He's one of the Liberty pastors. He's out of Oklahoma. And Dr. Duke Pesta. We're going to drill down and talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What's all that about? Why is that not only throughout academia, but why is that at the corporate level as well? And what can we do about that? Wow, there's so much we have to keep up to speed on. That's why I bring in the big guns and the great guests to do it. So thanks again, guys, for subscribing. God bless you. And as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.